Welcome to the photosynthesis video. This is my first video that I've made, so you're going to have to kind of bear with me. I'm still learning how to use all the bells and the whistles and how everything works. I'm hoping the videos will get better as we go along, so just kind of hang in there with me. A couple quick reminders, since this is the first video I've made, and it's probably only the first or second video you've watched. Make sure you have your Cornell notes in front of you. And you fill out the entire Cornell Notes template because I'm going to be checking it in class, and you can't continue on with the labs until that is done. Also, please make sure that the titles at the top of the slides are basically the questions that you can put on the left-hand side of your Cornell Note template. So if you're struggling with what questions to write down, the titles of the slides have questions on them. You can go ahead and use those. Last thing, please make sure that you don't just copy the slides, because I'm going to be telling you a whole bunch of useful information. So as you're taking notes, make sure that you write down things that I say as well. Finally, if I get to talking too fast, the wonderfulness of video is that you are able to pause me. So if I start talking too quickly and you're trying to write everything down, don't frantically keep writing, just pause the video, and then you can start me back up again once you've caught up. So that's basically the deal. Here we go. We're going to talk about photosynthesis today. Photosynthesis is a process that plants use to make their own food. Organisms that make their own food, I'm going to write it down here, are known as autotrophs. Auto stands for self, and troph stands for, I think, making your own food, or at least creating. So autotroph is an animal or an organism that makes its own food. Yes, that's kind of a tip. And we're going to talk about them today. Now, the problem we have is, before we can talk about plants making their own food, we have to review a little bit of plant cells so that you know what I'm talking about later on in the video. So we're going to do a quick review. What are the parts of a plant cell? I'm not going to go through all of them. Okay, I'm just going to go through the main ones. Right here we have the nucleus. The nucleus is super important because it contains the DNA for the plant. The DNA tells the plant what type of proteins to make, and those proteins basically control all of the plant's functions. Okay, so basically you've got the nucleus. You've got here the cell membrane that goes around the plant. Okay. You've got the, oh, my bad, you've got the mitochondria right here, which basically creates energy for the plant. Okay. You've got the cell wall right here, which gives the plant, oh, sorry about that. I'm still learning how to use this silly thing, which gives the plant structure. Okay, so the cell wall gives it structure. And finally, you've got the vacuoles down here, which hold basically the water for the plant, and it's like a storage tank for the plant. So these are the main parts of your plant cell. Well, one last one here, you've got the cytoplasm. This is the green stuff in here. It's basically the green goo that all the organelles float around within. So those are the parts of a plant cell. Now, most plant and animal cells, most of the parts are the same. Okay, so for instance, the nucleus, the mitochondria, the cytoplasm, those are all the same. However, there are three parts of a plant cell that an animal cell does not have. This is super important because Cambridge, I can almost guarantee you, will ask you a question on their Cambridge 8th grade test that has something to do with how plant and animal cells are different. So you need to remember this one, write this one down. How are they different? Well, plant cells have a cell wall. Okay? The cell wall basically gives the plant structure. Okay, and it protects the cells for the plant. If you think about it, plants don't have bones, they don't have exoskeletons, they don't have anything really to protect them except for their cells. So the cell has a cell wall that goes around it to help protect the plant and to give it structure, to help it stand up and keep it safe. The second thing is, and it's super important, plants have chloroplasts. Plant cells do, and animal cells do not. Chloroplast contains a chemical called chlorophyll. It's a green chemical, and chlorophyll is basically the chemical that captures the sunlight so that the plant can use it for photosynthesis. Okay? So chloroplasts contain chlorophyll. Now, not all plant cells have chloroplasts. For instance, a root cell, which is in the root of a plant, is underneath of the ground. It never sees the light of day, and therefore it doesn't need chlorophyll because it never gets any sun. So it doesn't contain any chloroplasts, those cells down there in the roots. Okay? Fruit cells don't contain chloroplasts because they're not making any basically any energy or any food for the plant. The main part of the plant that contains chloroplasts is the leaves, because most photosynthesis, notice I said most, not all, but most photosynthesis takes place in the leaves of a plant. So those are the cells that actually have the chloroplasts. Finally, the last thing that a plant cell has that an animal cell does not is a plant cell has very large vacuoles, whereas an animal cell has very small vacuoles. Okay? If you think about it, plants need a whole lot of water. That water helps them stand upright. It helps give them structure. They use it to make their food, we're going to find out later. And so they need very, very large vacuoles to hold all that water. So 3 differences between an animal cell and a plant cell. A plant cell has a cell wall. A plant cell has chloroplasts in some of its cells, especially in the leaves. And a plant cell has large vacuoles. Those are the 3 main differences. So what is photosynthesis? Photosynthesis is the process where light is captured by the plant, and then it goes through a chemical reaction and it creates energy for the plant. That energy is actually stored in the form of sugar or starch within the plant. Okay? You may also hear it known as glucose. I'll write that out for you. So the energy of the plant is stored as sugar or starch or glucose. Okay? Now, the plant will then take that sugar and that starch and that glucose and it will burn it through another chemical reaction. We call that chemical reaction respiration. Oh, I'm going to run out of room. I'm going to write it down here. Boop. Respiration. And then it'll burn that sugar and use that sugar to help it survive and help it maintain all of its functions. So basically, photosynthesis takes light and creates sugar. Respiration then burns that sugar to create energy for the plant. So they kind of go hand in hand. But today we're going to focus on photosynthesis. We're not really going to talk about respiration much. This photosynthesis occurs mainly in plants and some forms of algae. Okay, so that's where it usually happens. What do plants need in order to do photosynthesis? Well, in order to have photosynthesis happen, a plant needs light energy, usually from the sun. It can be indoor light sometimes, especially with indoor plants, but usually it's from the sun. A plant needs carbon dioxide, and this is the chemical symbol for carbon dioxide. It's got 1 carbon atom and 2 oxygen atoms chemically bonded together. That's carbon dioxide. And the plant needs water. Again, 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom bonded together. So that's the chemical symbol for water. So if a plant has light, it has carbon dioxide, and it has water, the chloroplasts can go ahead and use the light energy that the chlorophyll captures to turn all of those into sugars for the plant. So once the plant has light, it has carbon dioxide, and it has water, what comes out of the whole process? Well, in photosynthesis, the plant ends up making sugars or starches, again also known as glucose. Sometimes you even hear them called carbohydrates. Okay? And the plant ends up making a byproduct or a waste product, and that waste product is oxygen. So basically, after the plant makes its food, it poops oxygen. And that's the byproduct or the waste product that the plant makes. It releases it. What happens during photosynthesis? Well, the plant captures the light using the chlorophyll, and it then takes that light and uses it to make glucose. The sunlight provides the energy to the chlorophyll, and then that chlorophyll, that energy then is used to make the carbon dioxide and the water turn into glucose, and oxygen is the byproduct. It's the waste product that's released. The carbon dioxide ends up entering the leaf through tiny holes in the leaf called stomata. I joke around, what's stomata with you? Basically, if I can draw a leaf up here, let's see. If I have a leaf, oh, that's not too bad. Also looks like a bird for those of you who know me. But if I have a leaf, basically on the underside of the leaf, there are all kinds of tiny holes. Those holes are called stomata. Carbon dioxide enters the plant through those holes, or the leaf through those holes. Also, if the plant has extra water that it doesn't need, the extra water will leave the plant through those holes. So the stomata holes are where carbon dioxide comes in and the water leaves. Again, the way I remember it is I think about the leaves. If the water's coming out, the leaves are crying. Okay, kind of like the water coming out. It's almost like the leaves are crying. And so I think, okay, what's the matter with you? Okay, that kind of helps me remember stomata and what they're for. They're for carbon dioxide coming in and water going out. Now, the carbon dioxide then combines with the chloroplast energy with the light, and it makes sugars and glucose. That sugar then ends up spreading out throughout the whole plant. It's used in different places. It goes into the fruit. It's the sugar that you taste in fruit. So when you taste sugary, kind of when fruits taste really sweet, it's because the plant made that sugar for the fruit. It's also used in the stem and the roots. It's used pretty much everywhere throughout the plant. If the plant uses that sugar right away, it ends up getting burned up through respiration and used. Otherwise, if the plant doesn't need that sugar right away, then it ends up storing it as starch. Okay, so basically, if it's using that sugar right away, it burns it up right away, it's gone. If it doesn't need it right away, it'll end up storing it as starch. Now, in chemistry, which is basically a study of chemical reactions, because remember, photosynthesis is just like a chemical reaction. Okay, we have two different types of equations. We have something called word equations, and then we have another one we're going to talk about in a minute called chemical equations. Okay, now in word equations, we just use words. This is the word equation for photosynthesis, and you need to memorize it. I'll write that down for you. Memorize it, because you're going to need it later on your test and for the Cambridge test. This is basically the chemical or the word equation, excuse me, for photosynthesis. What goes in? Well, carbon dioxide goes in and water goes in. So carbon dioxide plus water. This little arrow down here is the symbol for yields. So this yields, and what that means what comes out. And what comes out is glucose and oxygen come out. So that is the word equation. The way you remember it is it's written in words. Okay, carbon dioxide plus water go in, glucose and oxygen come out, and the light energy up here actually ends up being used to help the whole process work. So that's the word equation. This is the chemical equation. Again, you're going to need to memorize it. Sorry guys, I know we hate to memorize stuff, but we need to know it. Okay. A chemical equation basically uses symbols. Okay, this is the chemical equation for carbon dioxide, CO2. You've probably heard of it before. This is the chemical equation for water, H2O. Probably heard of that one before too. So we get 6 molecules of carbon dioxide. Molecules are super tiny, you can't even see them. But 6 molecules of carbon dioxide plus 6 molecules of water yields or makes, this arrow also means makes, this is the chemical symbol for glucose or sugar, and then this is the oxygen that comes out as the waste product or the poop. Okay, so 6 carbon dioxide plus 6 waters yields sugar plus the waste product, the oxygen. Now, something interesting that we're going to learn more about in chemistry later, but I'm going to talk about real quick here, and if you don't quite get it, don't let it freak you out, because we are going to talk about it later. But you will notice that everything that goes into this chemical reaction also comes out on the other side, just in a different order. That's what a chemical reaction is. It's just taking the atoms or the molecules that come in and rearranging them and bonding them together in a different order to make something new. So you end up making something new. So if you'll notice here, I have 6 carbon atoms. 6 times C is 6 carbon, and here there's 6 carbon atoms. Here, if you take 6 times 2, that's 12 oxygen atoms, and here we have 6 more, 6 times 1, this is like a 1 down here, they don't write it, but that's what it is. 6 times 1, that's 6 oxygen atoms, and over here, if you add them up, here I have 6, and here I have 12, so I end up getting 18 over here, and 18 over here. Same thing for the hydrogen. This is 6 times 2, it's 12 hydrogen. And over here you'll notice you have 12 hydrogen. So basically everything that goes in comes out the other side, just comes out in a different order. Okay, it's kind of mixed up. This is the chemical equation for photosynthesis. It represents photosynthesis. So what else do plants need to survive? Well, plants need minerals. Okay, they use minerals from the ground for all types of things. They use minerals to help make the chlorophyll. They use minerals to make proteins. They use minerals to make fruits. They use minerals to do respiration and burn the energy. Basically, plants need minerals. That's all you really need to know here. We're not going to go into a lot of detail this year on what types of minerals. Basically, you just need to know that they need minerals to survive. And finally, we're in class for our labs. We're going to test plants to see if they've created starch. We're going to test to see if photosynthesis is actually happening. And the way we do that is when you put iodine, it's a chemical, on starch, it will change the iodine from brown to black. Okay? Now we got a little problem though, because remember those leaves cells, those cell walls on those leaves? Those cell walls are protecting the leaf. And the leaf knows that iodine is not good for it. So the cell wall is keeping that iodine out of the cell. So we have to get rid of the cell wall first, or get rid of it so that the iodine can get in to the starch. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put the leaf in boiling water. That's going to get rid of that cell wall for us so that we don't have to worry about the cell wall anymore. It's going to kind of make it so that everything can come through the cell wall. Take it back. It doesn't really get rid of the cell wall. It just makes sure that everything is now able to go through. Okay. Then we've got another problem. That chlorophyll is green. It's going to make it so we can't see the iodine turn from brown to black. So the second thing we're going to do is we're going to dip that leaf in something called ethanol. Ethanol is like a type of alcohol. And do not drink it though. It is not good for you. It is poisonous to you. It's not the type of alcohol that can be drunk or drank. But we are basically going to dip the leaf into ethanol. And that's going to get rid of the chlorophyll color, the green chlorophyll color, so that we can see the reaction take place. Next, we're going to rinse the leaf in cold water just to get rid of all that other junk, the ethanol and the boiling water and all that other junk off of it. And finally, then we're going to put some iodine on the leaf. And if the leaf has done photosynthesis, if it has created starch or glucose, that leaf will turn from brown, that iodine will turn from brown to black, or that leaf will turn from basically its color to black. And so that's the test we're going to run in class. If you don't remember this, don't worry, I've got it written down when we do the lab, but that's just kind of a heads up on what we're going to do. Finally, why is photosynthesis important to us? Well, plants are producers. They are the bottom, basically, of pretty much of the food chain. And without plants, animals can't eat plants. Well, animals eat plants and other animals eat other animals and we eat those animals. And so without the plants, we basically wipe out the entire food chain. Life on Earth as we know it would be toast. Which means, so basically we need those plants to survive. We need them for food. And when they do photosynthesis, they create that starch, that carbohydrate, that we then eat as food. A second reason why this is important to us is because of the oxygen that the plants release. We breathe out carbon dioxide. Okay, it's our waste product. The plants take in that carbon dioxide and then use it to make oxygen and sugar or glucose. So it's basically like a giant circle of life type thing. We breathe out the carbon dioxide, they use it and breathe out, send out oxygen. We breathe in the oxygen, send carbon dioxide back out. Again, a giant circle of life thing. So without the plants, we would eventually run out of oxygen and no longer be able to survive. Again, kind of a Lion King circle of life thing. I won't sing for you yet. You're not ready for that. Last thing, if you want to learn more, I'm going to include a link with this video to the Khan Academy. There's about a 13-minute video there that you can watch about photosynthesis. It is not required, but I would highly recommend it. It helps you get another viewpoint of how photosynthesis works. That was it for our first video. Make sure that you have taken your notes, you write your summary, and you bring it to class with you, and have a good day.